Who's zipping right now? Whoever is, can you bring me up some outside stickers from shipping? Thanks. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Forgive me, I've been running around, was a little late getting here, getting prepared for this class. First of all, welcome to REI. This is Boot Fitting Basics 101. A little bit about myself. My name is Manny. My email address is up there. If any guys want to jot it down, you have questions later on, or you get further into the process and you want to ask me something, feel free to. I've been an REI outdoor school instructor, now going on 4 years working for REI itself. I've been an outdoors guy, camping and hunting and doing fishing and other things since I was about 7 years old. I teach just about everything that REI offers, from backpacking 101, cooking, ultra lightweight backpacking, best swimming holes in Texas. We have a list of about 130 classes that we teach. The only one that we don't teach here in Austin, Texas is avalanche control. I think you understand why. So, with that being said, every time I start a class, I like to ask you guys, again, I've been doing this since I was this high. I spend more time outside than most people would think is healthy. And one of my jobs is when things get nasty outside, they pay me to go outside and test gear. So that's kind of what I do. That's my job. Before I get started, every time, I'm recognizing a few faces. I know I've seen some of you here at some of our other classes, so you'll remember this, but every time I start a class, I always start with, why did you come here? I have a PowerPoint that we're going to go through, and we can talk the mundane stuff. But right now, I have an opportunity to tailor this next hour and a half to what you came to receive. What information are you looking to get out of this? Now, I was supposed to have a class of about 20, so we may get a little bit more hands-on than I had expected here. So it always takes one person to start. Who's going to be the first one to tell me why they came today?
Hi, my name's Michael. I came because I'm returning to the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
In a couple of months. The last time I went, the boots I had performed, the Basque boots I had performed very, very well.
Okay.
And it seems like my feet have changed just in the last year and a half.
Happens to all of us.
And
Yep.
I know, especially when you get to be over 55.
Okay.
So anyway.
Okay, so that's why you came.
That's
general overall.
That's the primary reason.
Okay.
Also, general interest.
Sure. Anybody else? Go ahead.
So I need a new pair of biking boots.
Okay.
And I've been wearing Keens for about the last 6 years, and they need, I just need to replace them.
Okay.
And I hike on a weekly basis with a couple hiking groups here, but I do a lot of trips. We just got back from Australia and Hawaii hiking, so we do a lot of hiking trips.
Okay.
So different kinds of,
Sure.
so I'm not sure what to get.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sure. I've never been backpacking before, but I'd like to take a trip. I don't know if I need boots or just like hiking shoes or what. I'm totally new at it, so I'm
Okay.
trying to learn something.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I actually backpacked and camped when I was a kid,
Okay.
and I just haven't gotten a pair of boots in a long time. He told me about this last time. So.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same problem you're having. Basically, my boots were working fine, and now the last couple of times I've gone out, I've been getting my toenails banged up and all that, and I need to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Anybody else? The first thing I'm going to tell you is there is no magic answer to everybody. Okay. You can ask 4 or 5 of us outdoor school instructors, and we're going to have different opinions on what to wear and when. If you ask one of my very respected colleagues, Katie Spire, who has done both the PCT and the AT, if you guys know what those are, that's 2,000 mile trails, 2,000 plus mile trails. She has her opinions, and I have my opinions. And I have Connor Puckett, who's another colleague who just got done doing the PCT. He has his opinion on how to do it. So you're going to have to figure out what works for you. My job is to give you your options, and then for you guys to kind of work from there, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the overview of the class, and I got 2 different things going on. I'm going to be trying to follow what they want me to talk about, and I'm going to be talking about some of my talking points when I found out I was doing. This is the first time we've done this class here at this store, so when they told me I was doing it, I prepared a curriculum not knowing that they were going to have one. What's going on? So first thing what to expect here during this class today, we're going to get to know a little bit about your feet. You're going to learn how to utilize us to help you measure your feet properly. We don't expect for you to go home and do it. Boot lacing techniques is a big part of this class, okay? Because no matter what you end up with, whether you end up with a medium end boot, a high end boot, things change, and things change when you're on your trail. Things change later in the day, your feet swell up. So the more ways you have to lace up your shoes to take care of problems later on is really going to help. And you can also utilize these lace-up techniques when you're trying on the boots to see if it also helps. We'll teach you how to test your fit to see if it's the right boot for you. We'll also give you some tips and tricks on boot shopping. To that end, one of the first notes that I put to myself to talk about is socks are important. Whatever socks you're going to be hiking in, you need to be wearing those socks when you're trying on those boots. Now there's sometimes when we get into socks, I'll tell you why I intentionally give myself too big of a sock that won't fit in the boot. Sounds counterintuitive, but I'll tell you why. Let's see, what kind of hiking are you doing? Is it a day hike? Are you carrying 10 pounds on your back, a couple of tuna sandwiches and some OJ? Or are you carrying 50 pounds? And you're going for a 3-day South Rim hike in Big Bend, okay? You may need a more sturdy boot for something like that. Other options, what if you're doing something like the Pacific Coast Trail and you're thinking lightweight is what I need no matter what, that's something you should think about. There is an old saying that I don't subscribe to, that a pound on the foot is like 5 pounds on your back. Yes and no. Like I told you, Katie Spire will tell you mid-sole, mid-shoe, I want it lightweight. She's also 98 pounds, and her entire backpack probably weighs 20 pounds because she just wears Lycra everywhere she goes and has nothing heavy in there. So I subscribe to, depending on what's called the FP or foot placement scale, depends on what boot I'm going to be wearing, okay? And I am lucky that I can have multiple pairs of boots. You guys probably won't have that option or don't want to have that option as much as I need that option. So as you're picking a boot, just make sure you think about what am I going to use it the most for. We have a little syndrome here in Austin, Texas, and it happens quite often. It usually happens this time of year. Fortunately, we're having a warmer February than normal, but I tell people, why are you coming in to buy for Everest when you're going to Enchanted Rock, right? We see that all the time. People overbuy. And I'm not here to sell you the most expensive boot. It is the boot that I own, and my favorite boot, but it may not be the right boot for you. So, use your socks that you're going to hike in, so pick those out first. Now, we do have some downstairs. If you show up and you don't have any, you need to try on some boots, we have some for you to use. The lace up. Most people lace them up way too loose, okay? When you start thinking about the actual lace on the boot, when we get down to the bottom part of this boot right here, and I know this, I'm going to have a couple different lacing techniques going on right here, but anytime you start looking about the bottom part of the boot right here, they should almost flip like guitar strings, okay? If I can get my fingers under here really good, then they're too loose. So you want to think strum like a guitar string. And if it's too tight, and we'll talk about this more detail, but I think everybody can see my boot, right? You see how that's crossed over? Almost a traditional lace-up, and we'll get more into this here in a minute. But if you look at this one, does that work? There's no lace-ups crossing right here. You see how this goes straight up and straight up here? This is for a high volume foot. This is for a normal volume foot. And we're going to get into more details about what that means and how to do these lacing techniques as we move forward. Getting to know your foot. I mean, this is important, but the most important thing for you to remember is actually, arch is important. Now, most of these boots, I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but we're just going to do it. Most of these boots, if you take out one of their insoles, what they come with, standard, they're pretty floppy. Yeah, it's pretty flimsy. And if I'm going to be hiking a long time in a boot, I'm going to want something that's a little bit more sturdy. So insoles are something that you should put in your mind as you're buying those boots, because it will change the volume of your foot. Now, inside of that boot. Now, all of these are a little different. And I'm not gonna go into big detail here, I'm just gonna show you that this one, you can see it wants to fit a mid-arch. And we can help you figure this out, a mid-arch and a mid-volume foot. Okay, all of this is on the packaging, and our specialist down in the shoe department can help you pick one for you. This is high volume, high pronunciation, and high volume, meaning you have a low arch and you need more help up. If we have time towards the end of the class, I'm going to put my foot in some of those, and I'll show you how some of them will really cup the heel, and some of them cup the heel too much, and we have what's called flap over. It's basic fatty part of your foot flopping over the insert, so that doesn't work really well. So insoles are very important to your arch. They're also very important to your heel. So imagine, this is all not mine, so make sure I get it back, okay? I'm going to pass these around. Here's the stock insole. Here's a very nice insole, okay? I happen to be at the Tucson Tour, the 100. I help produce bike rides all over the country. And I was at the expo walking around, had about an hour free time. Some hospital said, hey, podiatrist is here, one of the world's best podiatrists, for a free hour, look at your foot. Why wouldn't I take advantage of that, right? So I went over, had him check it out. He looked at my insoles, and first thing he did was pull it out and looked at it and said, oh, super feet. At least you have something that's worthwhile. Most people don't. So Dr. Soles and all those, not that I'm a hater. If you got weight on your back, you need support on your foot, and you need support on that arch. So make sure you remember that is very important to put that in the boot as you're trying on the boot. Let's see. You know, here it's really about figuring out
So
you have a flat.
May just a quick
Yeah,
question. So if you had multiple pair of boots, would you have a set of insoles that you would move from boot to boot?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in the boots that I'm wearing right now, I have my orange, which are my favorite, and over here in my other boots, which I'm about to talk to you later on, I'm testing out to see if this is helping. Whoa, I don't know what I did. If this is helping with something else I'm doing, but I'm trying the green. Okay? They each do something different, and they each affect you different. And depending on how long I'm going, might also determine which insole I'm using, and the weight of my pack. The boots that I'm wearing right now, Solomon is one of my favorite shoes. Even in the summer, they make a shoe called the Tech Amphib. It's a water shoe. I love Solomons, but they're known to run really small. And guess what? I have a really fat foot. So what makes sense there? Nothing makes sense there. What best I can determine after going through about 10 seasons of Tech Amphibs, I usually destroy them down in here after the normal wear and tear of a normal shoe. And that's because my foot is flapping over, but they feel comfortable. I think it's the sensation that they wrap around my foot. Tech Amphibs in the summer. These I bought because, and I'm telling you why my thought process, because it's things you guys need to think about. This was my go-to boot. I love this boot. I've had these guys for about 3 years. They definitely need some TLC. I'll tell you why they haven't gotten it yet here in a moment. However, like I told you, I travel a lot. I make around 32 trips a year, all over the country, and carrying those things in and out of the airports, finally I got tired of it. They were so big and bulky. I'd wear a tennis shoe to get through the airport, but putting that in my luggage, I like to go super lightweight, you know. So I decided to get me a lightweight boot that was Gore-Tex. Everybody know what Gore-Tex is? Waterproofing. I wanted something like that was lightweight, so I grabbed these boots. I went through the whole last year's season, got caught, I think it was in Vermont in a thunderstorm, but they were Gore-Tex and high enough that I didn't have to worry about it. I'm usually up at 3 in the morning putting up start lines and all that kind of stuff. Love these boots until I got to Tucson. And I was in Tucson, back at the hotel. If any of you guys had the opportunity to stay at the Star Marriott up on the hill, they have these great trails that go in the back. Short little 10-mile, 12-mile hike. I decided I was going to go do it. I had a couple hours to kill. I get out there on these shoes, and the FP scale was out there. It was so high. FP means foot placement. And what that basically means is if we go walking around Ladybird Lake, we can walk around, look at birds, talk to you, and I don't have to worry about where my next step is landing, because we know it's flat. If you get to some place like Tucson, Big Bend, There's so many rocks that you have to constantly be looking down so that you don't roll an ankle, right? And having these boots, even though they're Gore-Tex, they have an extremely soft sole. So I felt every rock protruding out from under it, and I can't tell you how much I was telling myself, next year, if I come back to Tucson, I'm gonna bring my A-Solos. So those are the kind of things where you determine which boot you're gonna use, because A-Solos have a much sturdier sole. We'll help you figure out whether you have a high arch or low arch. We have a device down there that helps us do all of that. That's what they're there for. That's what our shoe experts are there for. I'm equipment expert. They're great at fitting you on the proper shoe. These are things that can cause some problems. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Let your boot fitter know. These guys do this every day, all day long. They've seen bunions, they've seen mortise toes, they've seen hammer toes, and they know how to address it. And maybe they can get you in 3 boots before you go through 10 boots, and finally they realize, oh, this is what's going on. So let them know. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Just let them know, and they'll help you narrow your search a lot quicker. We will use a Brannick device to help us figure all this out. And this basically, we encourage you to come towards the end of the day. Okay, your feet swell during the day. If you come first thing in the morning, you're not going to have as much volume to your foot. So come towards the end of the day. We'll measure you up. We'll get all those toe lengths. We'll look for the overall length, the arch length, the width. And once we do that, then we can actually get into the meat of the shoes. All right, so we're kind of going to slow it down here a little bit. How many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we may break up. Before we get into lacing techniques, we're going to talk about a couple of different shoes. Lace. Lace is going to take up the majority of what we're talking about. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start over here at this end. I'm going to start with boots, okay? I do have some other samples up here, but we're going to talk about those in a minute. First one I'm going to point out to you, this Vast boot here. It's a nice boot. It's got a Vibram sole, something I definitely look for. It's actually a really strong rubber for a sole. But if you look at some of the things, and it's basically determined by price point. If you look at this one, I think it's right in the 200 range or 230. I can check. But if you feel right there, what I'm pushing in on right here, this is called EVA foam, okay? This is the same stuff they put in tennis shoes. What does that do for this boot? Makes it comfortable. Makes it feel like what we normally wear. But if you notice the actual stiffness of the sole, torsionally and vertically, it's pretty strong. It's not as stiff as some of the other ones up here. Some other things to notice about this boot. I may want this boot if I was in a very tropical environment. They make it in 2 different versions here. First of all, if you see GTX at the end of the name, like here we got the Breeze 2.0 GTX. Here we have the Renegade GTX. 2 different companies still using the same nomenclature, GTX. GTX basically means there's a waterproofing barrier in there. Normally it's Gore-Tex. I've seen some people cheat and use other stuff. If you get licensed to use Gore-Tex, everything about your boot, I'll get back to this, everything about your boot, in order for you to put this name on your boot, everybody knows that Gore-Tex is a third party, right? Third party company. In order for Gore-Tex to license for you to use their product, everything has to be waterproof, including the laces. These laces can't hold water. If they do, it can't be labeled a Gore-Tex boot, or they won't let you use their material, basically. They'll pull it from you. And I've seen it do it to companies before, which shocks everybody, but they have done it. So some people, including one of my colleagues down there who's from Maryland, who's having a very tough time with our February, he's like, I can't stand a Gore-Tex boot. They're so hot down here. I'm a Texas boy. I'm wearing Gore-Tex all the time. Gore-Tex does breathe. Doesn't breathe as well as just a mesh, right? That's pretty obvious. If you have a waterproof material in between, it's going to be harder for vapor to get out. It can, and it does. It just takes a little longer. So some people in a tropical environment want something like this, where it's just totally mesh, no Gore-Tex in it, not really worried about anything. However, I've also been desert hiking in Death Valley, and I've seen people get thorns go right through this stuff, okay? So that's another consideration that most people never think about. If you look at the laces right here, they're all the eyelet loops. It's just material. It's not metal, okay? That's another thing to consider. Those are the things you're paying for when you go to an upgrade in a boot. Now, if I pass this around, and you guys feel how soft that is right there. And then I'm going to go up to the, okay, so the boot that she's feeling right now, I have it in two versions. I have it in the non-waterproof version, and I have it in the waterproof version. Pretty much the same thing, same EVO foam down here. This is called a Strobel board. And it's just soft, so it's going to feel good. Can anybody tell me when this would be a bad boot to wear? Have a super soft boot? Rocky and heavy pack. Okay? The softer it is, imagine there's more rubbing happening, right? And one of the things we're going to talk about is we don't want there to be a lot of room in the back of the boot. We don't want there to be any more than 1/4 inch is the technical term of slippage. I say there should be no slippage, okay? But if there is a tiny amount, there's a heel lock lace technique that we're going to show you in a minute that can really help with that as well, okay? So just know that, and also some people say you should be able to get at least a finger back behind. Some people say 2 fingers. I say the most important thing you need to do is get on there, try them on, and get on our rock, okay? You want to go on a rock both going uphill, more importantly, downhill. And if your toes even come close to touching the front, it's too small. Your boot is too small. If you're getting black toe, your boot is too small. Or we might be able to solve it by doing a loop lacing technique. A lot of times what happens, some of us as we age, our feet get wider because the bones flatten out. But I've also seen it, especially in men, when they start losing muscle mass, their feet get skinnier. And they just don't realize that that heel is slipping as much. So that's also something to think about. So you got EVA foam on one with nothing but material lace-ups. We do have some eyelets up here that are metal. That's a positive. But here's the next boot. So I think we're about the $230 price point here. Here I think I'm going up to about the $250 price point. Quite a few differences in this boot. There's not as much mesh, right? So it's not going to breathe as well. But it is made of Gore-Tex, so we do know that it's going to breathe some. Now, if you don't know, Gore-Tex is paper thin. It's like Tyvek, if you've ever touched Tyvek. It is really, really thin. And it's embedded in between the inner material, Gore-Tex, and then the outer material. Okay, so it's not something that's going to add a lot of weight. It's not going to add a lot of volume. It's just some people say it's too hot for them. You know, in Texas in July, I sweat whether I got Gore-Tex on or not. So I'm not really sure where they come from with that. But mostly leather. Suede-ish is a type of leather. Notice it has metal inlets here. So this boot is going to last a little longer. It's going to be a little bit tougher. Also know that just because there's eyelets or laces, you don't have to use them. This one's got 2 at the top. That doesn't mean you have to use them. You may end up just tightening it down right here. That's another technique we're going to talk about. But as I feel around, if you can remember how soft and cushy that was, maybe we can pass them together if we need to. But feel that one, and also feel the torsional strength on this one. It's a little bit stiffer. That's okay for boots to feel stiff when you put them on for the first time. All right? Not everybody is used to a real stiff boot.
Good question.
Yeah.
What about stretching boots if your foot is now touching the front of it?
You can try. Is it a leather boot? Which ones are they? How long have you had them?
A couple of years, but I haven't been wearing them. I'm going to wear them on a trip in a month.
And you use your own. Okay. If I were you, the first thing I would do is try the heel lock technique, which I'm about to show you here in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions so far? Okay, so the other thing I wrote down to mention, especially in the toe box, as you're passing those around, it may feel really stiff in the toe box, and that's just a break-in thing. Some of these boots, like the ones we're handing, these especially, you could take these and say, I'm going on a hiking trip tomorrow, and I need a boot. Okay, then I'm probably gonna wanna try to sell you this, because this is gonna mold around your foot a little bit better. When you start getting into the other boot that's more suede, wherever it is, more leather, that boot is gonna take longer to break in. That's something to consider. I can't tell you how many people come in here and say, I'm leaving to Kilimanjaro on Tuesday. Well, sorry. I'm gonna try to help you, but be forewarned, you're also gonna need a blister pack. So just be conscious of that. Whenever you're buying boots, buy them with enough time that you can break them in. Some boots, like the one I'm about to talk about, and the ones that I own, it took me months to break them in. And that's wearing them every day. And I hate wearing them every day because they call killing your soul with asphalt. All right? Boots aren't meant for asphalt as far as their karma goes, right? You're doing your boot a disservice by putting them on asphalt. But I needed to break in that boot, so I wore them every day for almost a year. And they took a while to break in. They're now, I guess, 4 years old, 5 years old. And I'm hating to give them up, but it's maybe time.
So is that a specific type or material?
Leather, mostly when it's leather. And you can tell, like on that one there, the Ace Handling, there's different cuts of leather. So since there's different cuts, that's gonna stretch a lot quicker than when we go to our one-piece Mac Daddy over here. When I say Mac Daddy, this is Texas Mac Daddy. This is not Mount Everest Mac Daddy. That's a totally different ballgame. Anyways, so this will break in over time. The other thing to look at is the aggressiveness of the boot. How aggressive is the actual sole itself? Let's see what these guys are aimed at. These guys are the exact same. So, well, that's the exact same boot. That'd be why. Let's see. All right. So if we compare these two boots, this boot, in my opinion, is a little bit more aggressive, and you can kind of think of this like tread on a tire, on a bicycle tire, on a truck. You know, the bigger lugs that you see, it's going to be a little bit tougher. It's not going to wear out as much. When you have this lesser of a lug, this I would say is for the guy who's actually backpacking and he's going on some high FP scale trails. This one I would say is probably more along the day hiker, probably light hiker, 1 or 2 nights. Not going out for weeks on end, but it's still a Vibram sole or Vibram sole, depends on who you talk to. They all have, this is kind of neat, anybody guess why they would turn that back part out a little bit? Almost seems counterintuitive to have the heel come backwards on the groove. It's actually for deceleration on a downhill. So as you're going down and you're planting that heel, it's supposed to help decelerate you so you don't have as much impact going into your joints.
When you say a high FP scale, you mean that it gets hotter, is that right?
No, foot placement scale.
Foot placement.
That means there's more debris on the ground that you actually have to look down at every foot placement so that you don't roll your ankle. If there's a great trail in Colorado Bend State Park down to the falls, which are beautiful falls. If you've never seen them, oh my gosh, they've been there for like 10,000 years. It's spring fed. But anyways, getting down there is difficult. It's not easy. And I tell people, if you want to try something like, if you're expecting a longer trip on high foot placement scale trails, to go down to the Colorado Bend Trail and check that out, because that is tough. Lost my train of thought. All right, so we're going to go back up over to now the bigger boot. This guy, warning, okay, this is my PSA for today, my public service announcement. Do not, under any circumstances, put this boot on unless you're willing to buy it. You are going to love it. I will guarantee it. It is the most comfortable boot I have ever worn in my life. They do make a wide. That's another thing to be conscious of the volume of your foot. Some of these brands like Solomon, are known for narrow foot, which surprises me that I like them. I use a wide in this, and maybe my foot relaxes. Maybe when I have more weight on my back, I spread my metatarsals out a little bit more. But this boot, you can see how aggressive the tread pattern is. If you look at the strobel board and everything that's in here, the entire shank is, in this particular boot, is totally encapsulated. You can't even see it. It's embedded in the rubber, and this thing is stiff. See, I can't get any torsional going. I can't get hardly any of this going on. Very nice soft padding inside here. If you look at the eyelets here, they're all stamped with a way for you to pull through. The very top, you do have what we call the non-eyed, or they're just loose, so you wrap it through there. But again, even in our most expensive boot right now, I say that because every once in a while we get mountaineering boots in. So it's so stiff, I'm not going to get it out. If you look at the, I can't get it out. I was going to try to show you how soft the insert is. So even on this boot, I ended up removing the insert. And if I remember, it might be a little glued. So I took them out and I put the super feet in here. The orange ones that are in my shoes right now were in those forever. So passing this around, can anybody tell me why? Why put that 1 pound on your foot that's going to equal 5 pounds on your back? Anybody?
I presume function. With the
It's
rain,
function.
you're gonna be covering the how wet it's gonna be.
And basically for me, most of the time I'm either out there, which don't follow my lead, I'm licensed to do this, but I'm either out there solo testing gear or I'm leading a group. If I'm leading a group, excuse my French, but come H or high water, if I have to get somebody out of there, I gotta get them out of there. I can't take a chance of rolling my ankle. If that means a little bit more extra weight on my foot, hey, that's a little bit more weight on my foot. Now, if you catch me on the PCT after 6 months into it, I might change my mind, all right? And I might go Connor's route. But for most of the stuff I do, this is my go-to boot. Mine needs some TLC. They've definitely been used, all right? You can tell these aren't off the shelf. I'm already starting to lose it on my tread. You see how much tread I've lost? And they do resole these shoes, and I so want to resole this shoe. But what's happening now is on both of these boots, I'm starting to wear the inners, right? That can be replaced, but now you're talking, is it really that cost effective for me to spend $200 and something to repair a boot that's $300? Do I have to break in another upper? Yes. I know guys that run in boots that are 20 years old and they're like, no, I'm giving them up. I don't care what it costs. Get them resold. And downstairs we do have a very famous shoe guy and all his information that we can give you. Little things like the shoelaces. And I just noticed this, and I don't know when I did it. I was probably on a trip somewhere. But I replaced the lace that comes with it with the round lace. And if you look at the boot, where'd it go? Somebody still got it? Okay. If you look at the boot, it's got a flat lace. All right? The flat lace, believe it or not, makes a difference. It will stay in place a little bit better. They make them round, they make them oval, and they make them flat. So I need to go back and replace these with flat. Am I going to give these guys up for brand new ones tomorrow? Nah. I'm going to wear these till they're gone.
I was just looking for the name that you were using for these. I don't see any name on them.
The A-Solo,
But just other than the company name, so is there a particular?
for the make model, no, I don't think they put it. I think they have it on the inside maybe. Or the A-Solo 520s. No, it's not on there.
Yeah, what says is your name?
The other thing to tell you guys is as you're trying these on, walk around the store. If you plan on going backpacking with us, borrow a backpack from us. Let us put 30 pounds in there, 40 pounds in there, whatever you think you're gonna use. Go up and down the stairs. Spend your entire afternoon here, or any place that you're gonna buy boots. People who wear these and know what it's about, they have no problem with you guys doing that. We have no problem working with you guys for hours till we find the right boot. because we know what it feels like to have the right boot or the wrong boot. So we want to concentrate on that. So basically what we're getting at is you kind of get what you pay for. I am going to have to replace these boots eventually. Will I get the exact same boot if they're still offering it? Absolutely, I'm going to get it. But sometimes we run into, I love this boot. Sorry, sir, they don't make it anymore. Well, what do I do now? I wish I could have some magic dust and fix yours, but we'll just go look at different boots. Right? That's the way that it is. One important thing, most boots that we see come back that have a problem, the way that we have to, or they have to, attach the soles to the actual upper nowadays, certain glues, carcinogens, we had to get rid of them. Certain glues involved animals, animal rights got involved, had to get rid of them. So now, even though technology is evolving, it seems that the glues that we're using are getting weaker and weaker. What I mean by that is I'm seeing more shoes fail at 5 to 7 years instead of 10 to 15 years, okay? So it is part of what it is, but the number one question, and nobody will ever answer me correctly when I'm sitting there at the cash register trying to determine what are we going to do. Are we going to give you a refund? Are we going to help you find new boots? How can I help you when your heel is hanging off, right? And you're like, I don't know what happened. I just had it with all of my camping stuff and I pulled it out. When's the last time we were camping? 5 years ago. Okay, so where's the rest of your camping gear? It's in my garage. Ding, 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 ding. Garage, sheds, attics are the enemy to anything you have camping, whether it's a sleeping bag, a tent, or your boots. Tents, more importantly, they're going to delaminate. It's called Silon now, silicone impregnated nylon. That's how they attach the waterproofing to tents. It deteriorates quickly in rapid temperature changes and humidity changes, which happen in garages, sheds. So anything you have that's camping involved, please, please, please find a place in a closet, in your bedroom, under your bed, but keep it in the environment that you live in. Don't keep it in an environment that it doesn't want to live in. Now, obviously, if you're out on the trail for 6 months, you're out on the trail for 6 months. But don't store them in that attic for 5 years and expect to go back and have a pristine piece of equipment, whether it's a boot or anything else. I don't know if you guys actually want to touch this boot. It's been so used. I'm going to leave it up here. If you choose to come touch it at the end of the class, you can feel that I've already created some give in the bend point. So it does happen through time. And I got some torsional rotation here. But anyways, for me, having a very strong, sturdy boot and not rolling an ankle is the most important thing to me. But running around town, I'm going to use these really soft-sided ones. All right, let's break into some. Okay, so I wrote down the big 3 things to think about when fitting your shoe. First of all is the length. Are your toes hitting the front? Because if your toes are hitting the front, bad sign, really bad sign. Black toe for sure. And if you've never had black toe, not very pleasant, is it?
You call it black toe?
Black toe. You rub your toes so much against that your actual whole nail turns black, and most of the time it falls off. Did yours fall off?
Not yet.
You still got them?
Yeah, they're just kind of reddish.
How long have you had them?
About 6 months now for the first one.
I was going to say, some people can take up to a year to recover from black toe.
It's also called runner's toe.
Huh?
It's also called runner's toe.
Yeah, runner's toe, same thing. I actually have a good ultra running colleague of mine who actually had his toenails surgically removed because he would get it too often during his 100-mile run, so I said take them off.
On the subject, are there any podiatrists that you guys recommend who are focused on sports?
No. I wish we could make those recommendations, but that gets into HIPAA and we can't.
Got it.
We have to stay out of that because we're not physicians. All right, so length is very important. Minimal heel slip. Remember I said all of the other manufacturers and most foot specialists are going to tell you a 1/4 inch heel slip is okay. I don't think so. I think you have any heel slip at all, you're going to have problems. We talked about EVA versus polyurethane, which is what this one is made out of. It's just a much stiffer material. We talked about how flat laces are stronger. They can actually hold onto the boot a lot easier. All right.
What about height versus, you know?
Height, good question.
Mid-height,
Yeah, okay, so I like the big, and I'm out ankle support guy. You talk to Katie, she's gonna tell you to wear a mid, which is, this same shoe comes in a mid, just cuts off about right there. And some people complain that they can't stand when the boot actually hits up on their ankle bone right here. Most boots that I know of that I've worn, yes, that bothered me at first. But normally the shoe breaks in right there, and so if it just happens right away, I mean, give it a while. Who's a member of REI in here? Who's had to return something here? We pretty good about that? We're pretty good about that. We give you a year satisfaction guarantee. I like to tell people, as outdoors people ourselves, we firmly believe that if you buy a tent, a boot, or a t-shirt, you need a spring, summer, fall, and winter to test it. So from the day you buy it, you get a year. So don't be afraid. Now we get a lot of people who tell us, hey man, that's you know, I love it, and I love you guys for doing it, but I feel guilty every time I take something back. You know where that goes? It goes into the garage sale. Everybody knows what the garage sale is? So somebody's getting a deal, right? And we've done study after study after study, and we cannot, the first time I take care of you with a boot that didn't fit, whoever saw Cheryl's movie, you kind of saw what we do. As soon as we take care of you, how many friends are you going to tell? I can't buy that advertisement. So don't be afraid to take a boot home and try it on. Now, we talked about the maintenance of the shoe, not storing it in those places where people normally store their camping equipment. This is called a Windsor lace. They don't do this anymore. This is actually brought back because of Cheryl's. Everybody know who I'm talking about when I say Cheryl? No? She wrote the book called Wild. It became very famous, and they recently made a movie about it.
Cheryl Stray.
Cheryl Stray. Great book. So I won't comment on the movie. But in there's a couple of times where she goes to an REI and she needs help because she got a boot that was too small, and she makes all the beginning backpacker mistakes, overpacks her boot. But this Windsor right here, I don't know if it's a true Windsor. I'd have to take this boot apart to find out. But this is the old way they did it. This is stitching the sole to the leather, okay? You can find a boot like this that works for you, go for it. But this boot, in order to do that, it's much more expensive. Our most expensive high-tech boot is right there. I had to find this on a one-off shelf because we just don't carry them that much. This is, I think, $350 or $400 for this boot. And it's less of a boot. There's not as much cushion here. What you're paying for is that Windsor stitching along the side, which is really nice. If you can find one that works for you, go for it. But know that that's available for you.
When you say go for it, do you mean performance, or do you mean comfort, or do you mean
It's
support?
durability. The
Durability.
thing will, but with most, like you say, my boots, but most boots, once you go through their expected lifetime, you've usually worn out the soles anyways. The only benefit you'd get by a Windsor stitch is that I live in a van with no AC. There's no way I can put my stuff in a climate control place, or my stuff sits in my garage no matter what. I'm gonna get a Windsor, just so it won't separate as quick. Let's see. Alright, so let's go back to the actual lacing. And what we're gonna do, well, let me cover all the other stuff I got up here real quick, and then we'll break up into the groups. So, other stuff that I brought up here, sort of related to boots, and we've already talked a little bit about the insoles. I'm going to come over here and talk about what some of the AT hikers want and what they've been doing. A lot of them have been going to these ultra lightweight shoes, which is kind of cool. This one, the lugs are a little bit bigger, and it's got a really kind of soft sole there. This one would be more better for actually like trail running. There's people who are actually run the Appalachian Trail. I think this year somebody did another record, I don't remember what it was, but insane how quickly he did it. Then you have ones like this. This has got what's called a rock plate in it. All right, and so that's going to be a lot stiffer. It's the same thing that you find in the midsole of a boot, but you can actually see it in this one right here. This would be great for hiking or trail running, maybe something like that. It's a stiffer sole. Connor absolutely loved these, but he actually budgeted in his Pacific Coast Trail 4 pairs. He said they're only going to last about 500 miles each. And so in his forward boxes, everybody know how you do that? You just forward your food and your stuff. He planned to go through 4 pairs of shoes. He went through 5. I happened to be in Reno, and we were in Tahoe actually. I was just in Reno for the night, Tahoe the next day, and he was coming down the trail, and he was in Tahoe the same day. And we ended up giving him a ride back to Reno so he could go to the REI and replace one of his shoes. So, if you want to do it, great, that's great. But Connor is also ultra light. He didn't even have a tent. All right? He slept cowboy style under the stars the entire time. So everything he did was about being as light as possible. And I remember we're both gear junkies, and someone challenged us to, we have weird competitions we do at REI. One of them was called a pack-off, where who's got the better stove, or who's got the better this, and so we had a pack-off, and it was kind of fun. We literally gathered around and people cheered. It's like a scene out of a movie. It's kind of funny. But I got him on his pack when I said, okay, but overall you're carrying 5 pairs of shoes. He goes, yeah, but only one. It's like, no. And so there's a big debate about that. But anyways, you may want to go to something like this. Some people swear by this. I wouldn't be caught in these if I was carrying a pack over 20 pounds maybe. And mine's normally about 40 to 50 with water for a couple of days. It's super easy when you don't have to carry water. So just know that some people out there are going to say, light, no matter what. Ankle. What are you going to do then? So Connor's also 6'5" and 23. So maybe if I was 23 and 6'5", I wouldn't worry about it so much. But I'm older than that. So other things to mention, things that you might want to pick up when you're picking up boots. We talked about different style laces. I don't know how I ended up with round ones. I know better. Maybe that's all they offered where I went whenever my laces broke. But that's important. And if you want to maintain the Gore-Tex official, you might want to look for laces that are also waterproof. Very hard to find. Now, let's talk about other things. Liners. Who's got a desk job? Okay. Who is on their feet all day long? Okay. This is kind of a general rule that I've come up with, and rules are made to be broken, so this is not set in stone. But generally I find that if you have a desk job and your feet aren't broken into being stood on all day long, you're probably going to want a liner. And what a liner does is it actually provides a different friction point between your foot and the outer sock, so that those two slide against each other instead of the sock sliding against your skin. Okay? And that can cause blisters. It's going to get a little gross here, but we've been talking about feet, so we're going to get even deeper into feet. I usually tell people, how often you get a pedicure? I've never had one in my life. Don't know that I ever will. But I do know that I'm on my feet every day, and so every once in a while I might get some dry skin down there, and I have to work at that to get it off of there. So if you do get a pedicure quite often, or you work on your feet to get rid of that dead skin, that probably means that your feet are strong enough or healthy enough that you don't need a liner. Okay? I don't wear a liner. I haven't for a long time. But if you do want a liner, they're very specific. They're very skinny socks. Okay? Don't just go grab some cycling socks or some PhD Smart Rules. You need a liner. I had some of these. I couldn't find them. I tried to find them. I had some. These have some silver mixed into them, something like that, which is an antimicrobial. Yeah, it helps keep the stink away. But you be the judge of that. If you're not sure if you need a liner, try them.
Silk, wool, synthetic preference?
I prefer wool, only because it keeps you warm even when wet. But those silver ones aren't too bad. Synthetics are going to tend to hold odor a little bit more, so it kind of depends on, you know, what you're doing, who you're with, and whether you're both willing to offend, or, you know, what's going to happen. Now there's also different types of socks, completely different types of socks. Here's some Smart Wool Hike that are very thin. These actually have special ports and venting for sweat to come out. There's actually a display downstairs as I was grabbing these socks. They must have put it up during the day. But there's a display of some socks and 4 pins and a description on the left-hand side of what this vent does and what this does for the sock and why this elastic is here. I'd encourage you to check it out. It's pretty informational little display. So these are pretty thin for hiking. Here is a thicker Smart Wool Hike sock. It is a lot taller. Again, personal preference. I'm kind of mentioned that I put on cycling events all over the country. I'm a big cyclist, so most of the time I'm wearing cycling socks. And so extremely thin. I'm wearing a Smart Wool here. I think this is a synthetic. Yes, I know they don't match. I stopped doing it about 10 years ago, and I've saved hours of my life by not matching my socks. So, but if you're hiking, you want to make sure that you match your socks. Now, you're looking at those hiking ones here, but I also want to show you 3 different. Here's a Cool Max sock. This one's by REI, unisex, kind of a neat sock. Here's a trekking, and here's a mountaineering. You notice they're getting thicker and thicker. That's going to be very important when you're wearing your boot. You know, how thick do you get it? I intentionally left 2 of these out of the same color, because this is, if I'm going on anything from a 3-day South Rim Big Bend, or I'm doing a 3-week Rocky Mountain National Forest in December, which was a great trip, this is usually when I'm taking 2 pairs of socks, okay? One is on my feet right now. The other one is on my pack, probably drying, because I either wore them yesterday or the day before, and they washed in the stream, and they're drying. And then, now this has to do with foot care along with boot care, okay? At night, after I've taken my boots off, and because I always use Gore-Tex, they're a little sweaty, right? They're not as fresh as the morning sun, but I let my feet dry. And this is true no matter what the temperature is, no matter where you're at. When you take your boots off, other than being on the cliff of Everest somewhere where you just don't take anything off, if you are going to take your shoes off, let your feet dry completely. Once your feet are dry, have a 3rd pair of socks that is a different color, and I like big fluffy mountaineering ones, because if I try to put these on in my boot, they hurt, all right? Because these are my night socks, just for the night. And if you guys haven't ever done that backpacking, when you get your feet dried and you're ready to crawl in and you put on a nice clean pair of socks, it doesn't have any oils, no dead skin, nothing on it, it's heavenly. So, and it also forces me not to wear this pair of sock in my boots because it's just too big, right? So, little trick there to help you out. Now, probably need these over here. These are sneaker balls, deodorizing deals, right? Depends on where if you're keeping your boots in your house now, maybe it's not time to do that. Other things, you're probably going to want to take some sort of blister pack if this is your first trip with your boots. You always want to have that as a backup. Everybody knows the term moleskin. It's been around forever. Traditional moleskin, you can cut it to different shapes. I think this one actually comes with different shapes inside of it. There's other blister packs that you can use that have different Band-Aid type things that you put where you get a blister. Most of the time, it's on your heel, and most of the time, it's because you laced it up wrong, okay? So, be conscious of that, be prepared. In a crunch, been out hiking, people are in horrible condition, good old duct tape. It's going to hurt when you pull it off, but it's going to get you to the end of the trail, wherever you're going. I've had to put this on to some people and just warn them, this is going to hurt when we remove it, but it's better than you just sitting there.
And that's to cover the moleskin?
No, this is if you don't have moleskins and all you have is your emergency duct tape, use it on that blister. Yeah, tough. There's some other foot techniques, and there's some books out there that'll tell you how to treat blisters if you do get them. I have run over 200 marathons, and I'm at about 50 100-mile runs. And I've had to pop more than one blister, and I'm pretty proud of how far one went across the room. But anyways, you have to be prepared to just tape them up, suck it up. But there is a little known thing, especially when we do a little run in Death Valley called Bag Rock Water. It's a 135-mile run through Death Valley in July. Average temperature, 115. Average asphalt temperature coming back at you, about 185. I take 4 pairs of shoes, go up half a size every time. But when you're out there and you get blisters, and whether or not you want to pop them or not is up to you. I've heard medical opinions both ways. If you do, make sure you learn the proper technique. You don't want to just slice into it or poke it. You want to get it at the bottom so the drainage can continue to happen. But if you do something like that, or even if you just get a blister and you're like, I am no way in heck I'm popping my blister. I'm going to put moleskin on it, whatever. Having some tincture of benzene, this stuff is golden. It's a little glass break bottle, and basically all it is it's super tacky, okay? So they used to use that on oral stuff, but you can now buy it like this. You can put it around the edge of the blister, popped or not unpopped, and then you place the bandage, and it basically it helps it stick to the skin, but it's not super glue strength. All right, it will come loose after a good soaking in a tub or something, or maybe 2 or 3 days later it'll break its way off. But if you're someplace and you're hiking and you're super sweaty and you can't get it dry, and tincture of benzene can save the day. So a little $3 packet of that can help
What
out.
was the name of that last run you talked about?
Tincture of benzene,
No, the run.
bad water.
Bad water.
Yeah,
Why do you want to do that one?
I've been asked that question a lot. And there's other races we do. We do a 3,000-mile bicycle race from Oceanside, California to Annapolis, Maryland. We're adventure seekers, thrill seekers. I guess the best way to say is because it's there. I want to know that I can do it. So
In that heat?
in that heat. My best time was 50. I wanted to beat 60 hours, and I did 59 hours, 58 minutes, and 32 seconds. So it's nonstop. It's one of those things where you don't sleep. You're constantly moving. So it's a slow jog. It's not a run. It's a slow jog for 135 miles. At the end, you get to go up Mount Whitney, though. So you finish at the top of Mount Whitney. The original race went all the way to the summit, but the Parks Department won't let us do that now, so we finish at the portholes, which is the last place a car can be before you get on the trail to go up to the summit.
It's kind of Whitney across from Washington.
No, Whitney is in California.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah.
It's not, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so any questions so far? We're going to get into techniques here. Last thing to mention is 2 things to mention. Boot care, which I've neglected. I have all of these things sitting on my shelf, but I just haven't opened them. There's different ones for depending on what you're doing. This is just general foot cleaning gel. This is for conditioning for leather. Waterproofing if you get a boot that's not waterproof, and now all of a sudden you're headed to Seattle and you're like, oh no, I know to waterproof it. Make sure you get the right one. All of our staff here is more than versed on trying to help you find it. This I think is just another waterproofer. If you get home and your favorite boot sole has come apart, people love this stuff. You might be able to get another couple runs out of your shoe if you put this in between the separated sole and your boot. It's good stuff. It lasts for a little bit. And honestly, there's people like myself that fall in love with certain equipment and don't want to let it go. I do have to realize at some point it's lived its life and it's time to move on. I wish we were of the day where my grandpa's stuff. I still have a lot of my grandpa's stuff, but okay. So who's got boots on them right now that they want me to look at their laces? You? Just one? Just one person? Does anybody else have boots in here? Oh, this is gonna be tough. All right, so last thing, gaiters. Everybody know what these are? So basically, different shapes, different sizes. These are probably used in the desert because they're very light, easy to use. Just connects on the bottom there. These, they come in all shapes and sizes. This is going to be more snow, going up the mountain, something like that. They usually have little clips here for the very front of the shoe. This goes underneath. And basically what it sits over this part to get less rocks, ice, anything down into the boot. Handy to have. Don't use them that often, just kind of depends where I'm going, but just know there's different shapes and sizes of those. And then we got the Yak Tracks, which fit most shoes. I couldn't find any crampons. Amen to that, no crampons in Austin. These are similar. There's for ice and stuff. I'll pass those around. Real simple to put on any shoe or boot. Now some boots come with what's called a crampon ring, and that would be at the very base of your shoe, right there at that lace there, and that's for a crampon to hook onto. That's old school. Most crampons now have a tension system that you can suck it up against the rubber in toe boxes. By the way, most of these have extremely high toe bumps, so no matter what I bump into as I'm walking, as I'm hiking, I can keep from stubbing my toe. And if we tighten them up good enough, then we shouldn't have a problem. All right, so here we go.
Question,
Yeah.
will these be used for something like day hiking at Big Bend, or will this be overkill?
No, that would be overkill. That's for ice.
Okay, and in the same context, I was told that the thin materials like the gaiters would get torn by the foliage and plants out there.
That's true. That's why there's different types of gaiters, and there's some that are thicker than others. But think of it just like the boots. I would not take that boot to Big Bend because of the chance that cactus would go through the side of that.
Right.
And I've seen it more than once.
Right.
So it's kind of the same principle. I'm wearing this boot in Big Bend. Just about nothing's getting through that leather.
Right.
Okay? I would say I'm even safe here from a rattlesnake bite.
Really?
Yeah, that's how tough that leather is. Anybody know how most people, I'm getting off subject here briefly, but anybody know how most people get bit by rattlesnakes? The number one cause,
Playing with them?
other than playing with them, which don't do. Most adults know that part of it. Okay, so this is desert. Okay, that's a log, that's a stick, that's a rock. Doesn't matter what it is, but under it is shade, right? And they're reptiles. They like sun, but not that much. They want to boil, so they're hiding under there, trying to keep cool. So number one mistake people make is they go to this rock, root, log, or whatever, and they step like this. And he's under here. He gets startled, and he strikes out. Okay. The best thing you can do to keep him from coming out is you step on top of the root or rock, whatever it is. All right, and your next, because the first thing he does when you do that is he feels vibration, right? That's all he feels. So when he feels a vibration on top of him, he just does this. He looks up. He doesn't know where to go. And then the next foot plate is way up here. It's beyond his strike range, and you'll look, but he won't come out at you. So most of it is when you surprise him and you land right on the other edge of a root rock. All right, so, oops. All right. So if we only have one person with boots, go ahead and put them on. And we're going to try to do some different techniques. I was hoping to break up in groups. Actually, let's break up into 2 groups of 5. And then one of you guys will use one of these boots. You don't have to put it on. And we're going to look at these 2 different locking systems. So,
9.5,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why don't you 5 get together and look at that one? Nobody's got basic.
Got laces, not boots.
My boots are in the back of someone's car right now, coming back.
Okay.
Mojave.
And you 5 get together, and we're going to look at these loose, and then you guys are all going to try them. Okay? And it's better if you could do it to your shoes. Matter of fact, why don't one of you 2 trade, and we'll use your shoes? Yeah.
You want us to
Over here?
set up now?
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, stop right there. All right, so you guys, I'm going to teach you guys both. What I want you guys to do is do it to each other so you can try to feel what it's like, okay? Now, for the first thing to remember is that you start with, if you're putting them off the first time, your lace is completely loose, okay? Really, really loose. We don't have to do that right now. The next thing you want to do is you're going to tighten up, right? Tighten up all of this so it's guitar tight. You do that here too. Okay, stop there. You stop there. You go. All right, you stop right there. Ooh, you're already using a crossover. Okay, so go ahead and take your crossover off. Yeah, and then take this. Okay. So no, stop. Okay, so it's right here. All right. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to separate what's happening down here and what happens up here, okay? Because you may need it tighter or looser up here. So we're going to isolate these two different areas of the foot. So what we're going to do here is we're going to tie what's called a surgeon's knot, okay? Now a surgeon's knot, let me show you how this works.
You want me to turn like it this way so you can do it like so?
I'm going to show everybody now what you guys do. Alright, so if I'm going to isolate the bottom part of this foot, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tie a knot. Regular knot, okay? Then 1, 2 more. So you have a total of 3. Now watch what happens. If I pull on this, it stays. Doesn't move. So I've just isolated the bottom part of my foot with the top part. Go ahead and try to do. And notice I pulled it out of that little tongue.
So I'm going.
You can't do it there. Regular knot.
And do I pull it tight?
No, you don't need to. Just do a regular knot right there.
Okay,
That's 1. Now pass it through 2 more times.
2, 3.
Now pull it tight. Now can you describe it in class? It's sitting there, isn't it?
Now it is.
It's not moving. So that's the way you can isolate the bottom of the shoe. Everybody got that?
Is that difficult to untangle it once you tangle it?
No, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Now let's go up to the next eyelet.
Okay.
And go ahead and tie off your shoe there.
So you're not crossing over from there, you're
You
linking
can,
the same 2 eyelets and then cross.
yes, and there's other options there. Okay, so this would be something for somebody who's feeling this ankle bone really protruding or hurting them. You notice I've left the upper nice and loose. Just because there's eyelets doesn't mean you have to use them, okay?
So the same smoothness that you want at the bottom is not crucial at the top.
No, absolutely not. They can be totally different. And that can be with different size volume shoes too. Different size volume feet. So let's go ahead and stand up, just do 1 or 2 things so you can feel how that boot feels. Is your heel still slipping? What was your problem?
What's happening is I'm feeling it here, and I'm always pushing up against this.
Okay.
And I'm having space in the back. Right now, I'm feeling pretty anchored to the heel, and I'm not feeling the toe right now. I feel a little bit of weight down here.
Okay.
I'm not, I have the hand toe, and I have the, extended toe, more considered talking about.
Okay. So let's go ahead and let's go to your other shoe.
Okay.
And let's do what's called a heel lock. So let's go ahead and isolate the bottom of the shoe again.
So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Go through there and isolate that bottom with the surgeon's knot.
So 1.
No. Go through the eyelets here again. And then come back to each other.
Got it.
Regular knot with an extra 2 centers.
See that?
Okay, that only looks like a regular knot. You need to go around 3 times.
So 1, 2,
One more. There you go. Now, okay, now we're gonna do something a little different, okay? So now what I want you to do is I want you to come up both sides.
like so.
Yep. Now, this is a little weird the first time you do it. Just gonna take your right hand and put it through the left loop here.
Right hand through the,
Like, through, okay, so take this one here,
got it?
you go
Oh,
through there.
go through the top one or the?
No, you go through the lace itself.
Go through the lace. Okay, so that goes through here, okay.
Okay,
And then the same thing,
correct.
What's this one called?
This one's called the heel lock.
not the surgeon's lock?
Well, yeah, the surgeon's not going on in the beginning.
Oh, I got it, and then this comes through the top.
I guess that's a little difficult the first time you do that.
It's difficult to get the shoelaces in.
Okay. Okay, so you got that one. Oh, you can do that one.
So these are the
And if anybody's not getting this, I can do it one-on-one with you here in a little bit. There.
right?
Okay. Now here, the tendency is to wanna pull on it, pull tight, pull up.
Right.
What I want you to do is you put your hand here, pull it forward, okay? Go ahead,
Which then will,
pull a little forward, a little tighter. There you go. Now do a surgeon's knot. So we'll hold.
so that's 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
1, 2,
Nope, you went backwards.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, now tie the rest of it off with a bow or just a regular.
And the rationale for doing it this way as opposed to the other?
Stand up. You feel it grabbing the back of your heel better?
Absolutely,
Did you take the pressure off your toes?
yes. Yes, it
Okay,
does.
so you see how just a simple lacing technique can take a boot from feeling like it doesn't fit at all to making it fit perfectly.
It's two completely different shoes, but
Mhm.
there's a lot more toe room in the front, this is pulling you backwards,
Right,
which is what you want.
exactly. All right, now which one is better?
This one clearly.
Okay, so,
I'm also wearing an orthotic,
okay, that's fine.
and
So, go ahead.
I can feel there's some issue with the heel, which is what you were referencing earlier, that the heel has to be the right size.
Now, I'm feeling this right here. Can you guys see all that material? This is telling me that he's probably either has a skinny foot, and he's probably not the best candidate for the next, situation that I'm gonna show you, but I'm gonna show it to you so that you can feel the difference, all right? So if I was fitting you on the floor, the first thing I'm gonna say, okay, well, you definitely don't need a volume lace-up. But we're gonna show you what a volume lace-up is right now. So,
And right now, this is the one that you recommend for me.
okay, so go ahead and undo this one. Is everybody getting this?
So you need a volume lace-up if your foot is sloshing around a whole lot in boots?
Exactly, yeah. Or if, like, for example, if he was feeling pain across the top right here,
Yeah.
that would mean his foot is too big, too much volume in the shoe. So we're gonna relieve some pressure right here. I'm a perfect candidate for this, but I want him to do it. So I want you to delace all the way down to here.
So the heel lock is the one on the left up there on the diagram.
Correct.
Okay.
And they're doing a
The
heel
surgeon's
lock.
not on top of that.
No, they're doing a heel lock without the surgeons. That's what you do before you do the surgery.
Right, but they hadn't gotten to that.
They hadn't gotten to that point, correct.
Where does it want to connect? I don't think I've ever taken them out of here. I don't think I need it.
You should be able to just,
You just pull it like that way.
all right, now what we're gonna do.
And the one that you're doing right now is called what again?
This is high volume, they call it high step lacing. I call it high volume foot lacing. And I could even take it down to here and start this process way down there.
would not be necessarily appropriate for an allergy.
No, but it would be appropriate for someone with bunions, toe sticking out where you needed to open up your toe box some. Okay, now from here, I want you to take it, and we're gonna come here. Okay, now, some people might tie off right there. That's enough. You don't need anything else. Which is fine. Just a lot of extra lace. By the way, the laces, I don't know if you guys noticed that, they come in different sizes. That's based on how many eyelets you have. So if you ever need new laces, don't just show up and say, I need new laces. Show up with the count of eyelets you have on each side, or your boot, and we can help you figure that out. Okay? So how does that feel?
That's very loose.
Very loose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would this guy do that? What situation would you find yourself where the heel lock has been working, but now you need to do something different? What would have happened on the trail? Feet swelling, exactly. So if you get the perfect foot, or perfect fit, and then you're into this hike for 2 or 3 days, and your feet are just expanding, or it's super hot, then you may want to change your lacing technique. Go ahead and pull it out, and say, okay, I'm going to do something a little bit looser. There is no right or wrong way to do it. You just got to constantly play around with it. If you notice over here on this boot, what I have is basically that loose situation there. I tied a surgeon's knot. Probably come back up here. And I'm old school, so I always tie off. All right, over here, what's happening? Is I have a surgeon knot that is pulling in. I'm doing the heel lock technique. That makes sense? So on this particular shoe, I definitely feel my heel more secure. I can feel it holding on to that heel. I can feel it holding on to the heel. I can feel the pressure relief of this tremendously, which is nice for me because permission for them to touch your foot?
Sure.
Yeah. Touch in here, feel how much material he has, and then touch on mine. There's like nothing there, right? My foot's fat. I have a fat foot. Alright? And yours is skinny for that boot. It may not mean you have skinny feet.
Right.
Certain boots are known to fit skinny, some are known to fit wide. There are some that our sales associates will tell you right off, oh, skinny foot, let's start you out with these 3. Be encouraged though to try different ones. Like I said, my Solomon's skinny feet, but I love the wrap. I don't know why. But when I'm going hiking, I want a high volume boot that is extra wide. So on these, you look at that tread, it's super easy. You can see why it wouldn't be good on a really rocky terrain.
So this one is a high instep, and this one you said was called,
That's the heel lock.
heel lock.
Heel lock, yeah. And you can go up here. If you feel like that there's not enough ankle support, you can go up and lace up there. You can stop here. You can go up here. Play with it. That's the best thing I can tell you. It's kind of almost, I tell people, getting new boots like getting a new cell phone. It's fun and exciting, but god dang it, I don't know how to work this one. So play around with it and learn how to make it fit your foot better.
And there's the one just above the loop that we did the
And
triple.
you can do it anywhere. It doesn't matter where you do it.
Okay.
I remember learning these for the very first time, and I try to remember, okay, and the person who was mentoring me is like, no, it's wherever it feels right. I'm like, okay, I can deal with it. So play around with it some. Let's see what else we got. Has everybody got those techniques down? Anybody want to try them on somebody else? No? We still have about 10 minutes left, so. Where's my clicker? All right. So, give us, I want you to give me in just a few sentences what you felt with those. What went through your mind? Did you think we could change the fit of the boot that much with just simply moving your laces around?
No, they're completely 2 different shoes.
So for you, flat toe, I think you should try your heel lock. That'll bring your foot back, and it'll allow your toes to move around, hopefully. You may actually do a heel lock with a high step at the bottom to give you more room down there. What may have happened is your arch is collapsing, so your foot is elongating. That could be it. There's a number of different things, like I mentioned earlier, your foot might be getting skinnier, and now it's slipping back and forth, so the heel lock will help.
One thing that I did notice is that for a long time when I've been hiking, I'd never worn a liner sock. I had just worn one of those socks, like one of those mountaineering ones. And then I started using liner socks, and I started having that. It seems that issue's cropped up after I started using the liner sock.
It crept up after you introduced liners?
Yes. So I'm wondering if just the additional bulk of adding an extra sock might have been enough to.
Yeah, absolutely, could have been. Let's see if we got, okay, so this is what you look for when you're testing your boots downstairs. When you do try them on, definitely get on that rock. And I see them telling people to stop going downhill. That's literally what we want you to do. And if you're physically capable of doing it, I tell people, I want you to bunny hop down that. I want you to put a lot of force, trying to force your feet forward. Try to make it not work. That's really the best way to fit a boot, is trying to make it not work. And all of a sudden you're gonna put one on, you're gonna, oh, here it is, everything fits. Don't forget insoles, very important. If I had my choice, nobody would leave here with getting hiking boots and not getting insoles. And I've heard people say, why don't they just put good ones in them from the factory? Well, you're looking at 6 different styles and types right here, depending on your type of foot. So obviously they can't offer those that'll work for
How can you
everybody.
tell which kind you get?
Our sales associates down there will help you figure it out. We have a device that'll help us figure out whether or not you have a flat foot, a high arch. That will narrow it down. And then from there we narrow it down by size. And then we'll actually put them down on the ground and have you stand in them. You want to stand in one? Got a few minutes left. Alright. So we'll start with the very low volume, okay? Put your foot in it. Alright, so what I'm looking for right now is, this is the wrong size for her, but I'm looking at how much does it fit her arch right here? Is it cupping her? And does she have any overflow here? Other than it being the wrong size and not hitting her arch, looks okay. Now we're gonna do this one. Does that one feel better?
It's softer.
Softer? Okay, this one actually has more support, believe it or not, it's not softer. So this is fitting her arch a little bit better, it's cupping her heel a little bit better. I'm liking this one because there's not as much room here. Try that one. How's that one feel?
Feels like my heel's lower.
Yeah, and you're getting a little flop over here. So I would say that this one seems to fit you best. And if we've got you the right size, and you're moving around to get your arch, but that one feel better?
Yeah, what one is that?
That's the sole, and it's the orange, it's the Carnes. But don't worry about that. You can try that with any of those, and they'll help out.
And it's possible your 2 feet are different.
Yes,
Actually,
absolutely.
it's
Good
certain
thing.
that your 2 feet are different.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Well, I learned something, because I have these I have 2 pair of orthotics, one that's for dress shoes and one that's for sports, and the ones that are here are the dress shoes, and when I put my foot on it, the heel is too narrow. So this is gonna work for a dress shoe, but it wouldn't work in these boots.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's the difference, you know, I've had a couple of just $100 canes, they last me 6 years. Versus like a $250. I mean, how do I know?
First of all, put them on, and you'll be able to tell a difference right away. Second thing is back to what we talked about, using polyurethane for the shank instead of an EVA foam. It's gonna hold up, it's gonna be stiffer, you're not gonna feel as many rocks under the foot. When I told you I did that hiking trip in Tucson with these, I was looking down so much. It's kind of embarrassing for an outdoor school instructor to admit this, but I was looking down so much that I bumped my head twice into overhanging cactuses. Luckily, I wasn't trail running, I was walking, and I immediately knew it, because I'd been thinking, you're gonna do it, eventually you're gonna hit one of these. And I did, and then I did it a second time, and so.
I do a lot of hiking in Hawaii, it's a lot of tree roots.
Yeah, so those are things to think about. That's why next year, I'm taking my ASOLs, so I don't have to look down as much, which it's not gonna be as wobbly as these. When I plant those things, one of my favorite things to do is tell people when you put this boot on, to go to the stairs, and I want you to let's say this is a stair, put your foot right there. Now this, when I put my weight on it, it's gonna slip right off, okay? That's because there's so much bend in the sole. When I put this boot on and I go to step on that edge, people are shocked. They're like, oh. I freak myself out when I come back from a long trip wearing these, and I come running up our stairs, and I'll catch myself on just a toe, and it gives, like, whoa, oh yeah, you're not wearing race solos, you can't do that now. So know that will make a difference as well. Any other questions?
Are the firmer shoes for FP, high FP,
What about it?
the firmer shoes, can
Yeah.
you cushion them enough so they can be versatile and you can wear them
For
city hiking? I know it's gonna wear out the sole more, but
for a year, I wore these almost every day. So I would say yes. It's just different. It's not bad. It's different. And I like telling people it's very much like, say you are a professional and you're a suit and tie or a dress in high heels or dress shoes every day, and then you put on tennis shoes. It's totally different, right? Boots, totally different. I like the sturdy soles, but again, I'm not the definitive answer to it all. Everybody's different. Like I would never tell Katie Spire she's wrong. I would never tell Connor Puckett he was wrong. We just have different opinions.
So when you're getting up to the top of your shoe, I'm noticing that this is tighter when I try to put it on this side to match that. Just keep that looser, or does it make?
Whatever feels good to you. Yeah, whatever feels good to you. There is no right or wrong. Okay, so before we depart today, I'm going to ask you guys to do one last thing for me. These are class surveys. Only myself and my immediate supervisor read them. And the benefit from these is it helps us tailor the class and get more out of it for you guys. So please be honest. Don't be cruel. I have feelings too. I'm sorry. But if you guys will fill those out, and if anybody needs a pen, let me know. Just start passing this around. And then as you guys are getting ready to leave, a couple last things. And the pen. If you feel like you've gotten something out of this class, we have a class schedule of all our other classes, which you probably want. So I'll just kind of put these out there. If you guys want to take one, feel free. If not, just leave them on the bench.
Manny, I'll say one thing, just as a general comment
Sure.
about the class, and that is that if it would have been important for us to bring our boots, there's a gear element that's there when you register. It says what gear is necessary. It says,
Okay.
like, don't bring anything. And so I had actually considered bringing my boots. Turns out I didn't have them. But if it had said, if you'd like to,
Absolutely. I'll make sure I mention
that's
that.
just a general comment.
That's probably something they got missed since it's our first time doing that class here. So I'll let Ivy, our outdoors pro, she runs all that. Now, if you guys, once we're done in here, want to go down to the foot department and try on something or look at something or have me, check out some laces on you, we could do that. Yeah. Let me make sure that I hit every slide. Go ahead with your question, Doug.
You had talked about finishing the top of this by going up to the inner line vertically on the last two, and then crossing over like so. But I didn't recall. You had
Before you tie that knot, you go through there.
and you go through it on the opposite side, right?
Yep. And that's called the heel lock. So one other slide as you guys are filling those out. Be prepared for your boot shopping. Make sure you have enough time. That's key. Don't rush it. wear the right socks, ring inserts or orthotics, consider brands you've worn before, and like, try on suitable pairs. Spend some time, take some strolls, I already hit that, hit the stairs, find the incline, that's why we have the rock. It's there for you to use, so please use the rock. And I can't stress enough when I say come in with enough time. And I'm gonna ask one last time, if anybody has any questions or wants to come up and put their hands on some of this stuff and feel it, you're more than happy to. I'm sure some of you guys have heard what our new to us CEO did this Black Friday. Anybody not familiar with what REI did this Black Friday? Everybody knows what Black Friday is?
Yeah, they closed.
We closed.
And go out.
We said, our CEO said, you know what, this is crazy. People are fighting in Walmarts. We don't want to be a part of it. Our overall mission as REI is to get people involved and outside. So we started something that's called Opt Outside. Other companies followed us. We had over 8 million people promise to go outside and spend time with their family members outside instead of going shopping and being part of the madness that is Black Friday. That was huge for us. And so I actually today driving down from where I was coming from, I passed somebody that had an REI Texas sticker in the back of his truck. I was like, man, this is awesome. So we're getting the word out, hashtag Opt Outside. If you guys want, we have these free stickers here. Put them anywhere. Last night I was literally watching, does anybody remember the guy's name who summited Everest? He was blind. The first blind man ever to summit Everest. It was in, gosh, it's in 2000 something. Anyways, he's blind. He summited Everest. It was the biggest, largest team of people to go up Everest. There was 19 people on his summiting team. And he was blind, but Outside Magazine filmed the entire thing. First time getting HD video off of the top of Everest. He made it, but during the movie that they were filming this documentary as he's actually climbing, I looked and one of the climbers that was part of the expedition, his wife was down at base camp relaying weather information, where the other teams were, the stuff you do at base camp. And I noticed on her clipboard on the little corner she had the Washington REI sticker on there. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I'll be around if you guys have any more questions. I'll flash up my email one more time, so if you guys want to write that down, typically I get phone calls later on. But
Where are the inserts in this one?
they're with the shoes in the shoe department. So if anybody wants any more stickers, feel free, hand them out, give them to your friends. If you got any other class surveys, just put them on that back chair. It'll be great as you leave, and I'll be up here if you have more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.